Živijo. Včeraj je bila prva obletnica smrti Kobija Bryanta in vseh ostalih udeleženih v tisti helikopterski nesreči. Zdaj v zadnjem letu, pa tudi že malo prej, sem zdaj začel malo več spremljati Kobija, glede na njegove intervjuje, ki sem jih uspel videti na YouTubeu in tako. In mi je njegova miselnost in vse to kar, ne pa rasla srce, ampak mi je res dala neko motivacijo, neko inspiracijo za naprej. Tako da zato si še večkrat pogledam te njegove videe, te njegove misli. In zdaj sem tukaj nekaj zbral v bistvu en skupek nekih najboljših zgodb, ki so meni se malo dotaknile oziroma tako, in upam, da se bo tudi vam to, bo vam dal tudi možnost, da dobite večjo motivacijo, da se boste bolj izkazali na svojem področju. Tako da poglejte si, če bi radi videli daljši video ali pa karkoli, pa poglejte spodaj še v mojem opisu videa, pa boste lahko pogledali še več.
Lesson number 1, outwork everyone.
I've been with you for a long way. The one moment that stands out of, we've done, I don't know how many done, we've done what, 800 events. Mm-hmm. The one time was 4 a.m. We went out to practice at 4 a.m. And that was your idea to do it. But, and then, you know, all these Nike people are like, no, let's not do that. And then you're like, let's do it at 4 a.m. So you got security, you got brand marketing, sports marketing going, no, let's not do it. You're like, let's do it. Because that's your sustenance. Right?
I mean, to me, it just makes complete sense.
Not to us.
But I don't, like, okay, so.
See, all right. Usually, I'm sleeping at 4 a.m. You're working out. So talk about that.
Okay, so if your job is to try to be the best basketball player you can be, mm-hmm. right? To do that, you have to practice, you have to train, right? You want to train as much as you can, as often as you can. So if you get up at 10 in the morning, train at 11, right? 12, say 12, train at 12, train for 2 hours, 12 to 2. You have to let your body recover. So you eat, recover, whatever. You get back out, you train, start training again at 6. Train from 6 to 8, right? And now you go home, you shower, you eat dinner, you go to bed, you wake up, you do it again, right? Those are 2 sessions, right? Now imagine you wake up at 3, you train at 4. You go 4 to 6, come home, breakfast, relax, blah, blah, blah. Now you're back at it again, 9 to 11. Right? You relax, and now all of a sudden you're back at it again, 2 to 4, and now you're back at it again, 7 to 9. Look how much more training I have done by simply starting at 4, right? And so now you do that, and as the years go on, the separation that you have with your competitors and your peers just grows larger and larger and larger and larger and larger, and by year 5 or 6, doesn't matter what kind of work they do in the summer, they're never going to catch up, because they're 5 years behind, right? So it makes sense to get up and start your day early because you can get more work in.
Is that genetic? Or is that something you ingrained and trained yourself?
No, it was
Who taught you that?
For me, it was just common sense. Like I can, if I start earlier, I can train more hours. And I know the other guys aren't doing it because I know what their training schedule is, right? So I know if I do this consistently over time, the gap's just going to widen and widen and widen and widen and widen, and they won't be able to get that back. Mm-hmm. So to me, it was just common sense and like thinking, how can I get an advantage? Oh, start earlier. Yeah, let's do that. I think the best way to prove your value is to work, is to learn, is to absorb, to be a sponge. Right? But you always want to outwork your potential. As hard as you believe you can work harder than that. And that's what I tried to do when I first came in the league. But basketball is such a direct competition sport that me coming in at 17, I hated when like my teammates would say, I get hit with an elbow, right? Shaq would hit me with an elbow in practice, and like, Nick Van Exel would come up and say, "Are you okay?" I'm like, what? Are you okay? What the hell's wrong with you? So like I always had that extra chip on my shoulder. So like every day in practice for me was really trying to annihilate everybody that I was playing against, because I wanted to prove you don't need to babysit me. Like I'm fine, And so it's always that competitive nature, the work ethic, and curiosity. Because I asked a lot of questions. Playing with Byron Scott, I asked him a lot of questions. Eddie Jones, who was great at chasing guards off the screens, and I didn't understand how to do that. I would sit with him before practice, after practice. Magic, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, Kareem Abdul, all the Laker greats, I would always sit down and just ask them questions about certain games that I studied growing up. What actually happened there? What did you feel there and why? Bird tough to defend, why? Because you look slow as shit. than me. So like, I'm missing something. So like, tell me what I'm missing. You know what I mean? And so I would always ask questions and try to learn as much as I could.
Lesson number 2, be a long-term thinker.
I had a summer where I played basketball when I was like 10 or 11 years old in a very prominent summer league in Philadelphia called the Sunny Hill League, where my father played, my uncle played, and they were like all-time greats and such stuff. And Wilt Chamberlain played in the league, you know, Earl of Pro Monroe played in the league. And here I come playing, and I don't score 1 point the entire summer.
Really?
Not one.
How old were you?
11, 10, 11.
And you're playing against other 10, 11-year-olds? Or, and you didn't score once?
Not one.
Were you in the game?
I was in the game.
How'd you not score?
Because I was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
At 10, 11 years old, you were that terrible.
Awful. I mean, and I had these big knee pads on because I was growing really fast. I had socks all the way up here, and I had like the high top
skinny,
fades, like skinny as hell. And I scored not a free throw, nothing, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points.
Is that when you think the mentality of hard work started to come in for you at that age, when you failed so miserably, I guess, that summer?
I think that's when the idea of understanding a long-term view became important, because I wasn't going to catch these kids in a week. I wasn't going to catch them in a year, right? So that's when I sat down and said, okay, this is going to take some thought, all right? What do I want to work on first? All right, shooting. All right, let's knock this out. Let's focus on this. Half a year, 6 months, do nothing but shoot. All right, after that, all right, creating your own shot. And then you focus. So I started creating a menu of things. When I came back the next summer, I was a little bit better, right? And
a menu being like, I've got my jump shot from 15, I've got my
I got my jump shot
fadeaway,
from 15, I got my three-point shot, like just open shots, not miss open shots, right? And be able to shoot it with speed, because those kids are so much more athletic.
Yeah.
And then the next summer I came back, I was a little better. And the summer came back,
you
the
scored.
next summer I was a little better. I scored.
Yeah,
it wasn't much,
right,
but I scored.
And this is 12, 13.
12, 13. And then 14 came around, back half of 13, 14 years old, and then I was just killing everyone. And it happened in 2 years. And I wasn't expecting it to happen in 2 years, but it did, because what I had to do was work on the basics and the fundamentals, while they relied on their athleticism and their natural ability. And because I stick to the fundamentals, it just caught up to them. And then my body, my knees stopped hurting. I grew into my frame. And
then your athleticism, once you have the fundamentals, the hard work, the mindset, and you tack on the athleticism, it's game over.
Then it was game over.
Wow. So from 13, you're good, average still?
I was good. I was good. And then about the end of my right when I was turning 14, I became the best player in the state.
At 14?
At 14.
So from 12 to 14, you went from scoring 0 to being the best in the state of all ages.
Yep.
Lesson number 9, study success.
Kind of take us behind kind of the current with Michael. Was there ever a moment that you guys spoke that you felt like it energized you and you learned from him?
Yeah, it was crazy, man, because my favorite player was Magic growing up. And then I quickly realized my father stole all my height, and I wasn't going to be a 6'9" point guard. So I had to, so I looked at this young guy coming up. And the thing that I marveled at wasn't the fact that he was getting to the rim and doing these fancy stuff. It was like, how is he getting to the rim? How is he doing it? Right? And you look at the footwork, you look at the fundamentals, you look at the spacing, the pacing, right? And all those little things, the angles. And that's what becomes fascinating. It's like, okay, how do I get there? Right? So I started studying all those basics. And then when I came to the league, the first time I played against him, I won his respect, because it was like, this kid's not scared of me at all. Right? And he saw a kindred spirit from that standpoint. And that started a relationship. And it became something where it was like, text him anytime, hits me right back. Questions, hits me right back. And we're talking all the time.
Lesson number 10, learn from failures.
We talk about this often, and we always talk about the fact that you can learn a lot more from the failures than you can from the successes. And you have to figure out where those landmines are, and then how to best avoid those, or help entrepreneurs, and ourselves included, figure out the clues of where those landmines are. Not that you're going to avoid all of them,
right?
But it's also, when you do step on one, figuring out, okay, how do you recuperate? How do you balance back and pick yourself up?
Lesson number 12, love the game.
The passion came from the love for the game. I loved everything about it, like the smell of the ball.
You love the smell of the ball?
Yes, the ball. The smell of like brand new sneakers, and like the sound the ball makes when it hits the ground.
Sneakers in the gym.
Sneakers squeaking. Yeah, the ball going through the net. Like all those things I love. And so the passion comes from that, because once you have that love, you just want to be a part of this thing all the time.
Lesson number 13, work the hardest.
I read a story that you used to play guys to 100. You'd be like, you have to stay in this gym and play me to 100. And I mean, what was the biggest margin of victory you'd ever win at?
Well, in high school, I used to spy guys 99 to 100. No kidding. But, you know, listen, these practices are meant to be competitive. They're meant to be competitive. If your practices aren't more competitive than the games themselves, you're doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And most of these teams and coaches have gotten into a mindset of resting players. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's too much. You know, we're not going to practice light day, light day, light day. Phil never gave us a light day. Mm-hmm. There's no days off. You show up and you work. You practice. Yeah. And practices are going to be worse. They're going to be more physical. There's going to be more trash talking. And I'm going to let you know. Right? Yeah. If you didn't show up today, I'm going to let you know. Yeah. And it's going to be embarrassing, and you're going to hate it. But when Game 7 rolls around, the NBA Finals, you will be prepared.
And lesson number 15, the last one, is thrive on being an outsider.
And I've always had some of my best performances on the road. You know, when fans boo, I absolutely love it. I thrive on it. They don't understand who I am. Not only am I comfortable being an outsider, that has become a source of motivation for me. So when I go to these places and you boo, it actually comforts me.
To je današnji video. Zdaj, če bi vas še kaj več zanimali, pogledajte si še kaj več od TicoIva. Verjamem, da vas bo navdušil in še spodbudil za večje zadeve, ki jih delate. Ali je to, kar se tiče športa, šole, bilo česa. Jaz mislim, da lahko najde vsak neki motivacijo v tem. Je res, da pač glede na to, da je bil on profesionalni športnik, ti ne more zdaj vsak od nas posameznik prenesti tega v svoje področje takoj, je treba z nekimi modifikacijami, ampak sigurno pa lahko marsikaj odneseš tega in vneseš to v dobro svojega življenja. Tako da za ta video je to, se vidimo pa spet naslednjič. Adijo.